Good afternoon. On behalf of the Department of Management and Financial Studies, Shaheed Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everybody present here with us today. I am delighted to inform you that we have over 600 participants joining us today through different mediums. I would also like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to Professor Aman Agarwal and CA Anil Sharma for gracing us with their esteemed presence for the session. Professor Aman Agarwal is the Director and Dean at the Indian Institute of Finance and is also the Executive Director at Finance India. CA Anil Sharma has been in practice for the last 39 years with special interest in corporate laws and FEMA and is currently a senior partner of Ms. A. Sharma & Co., a CA firm in New Delhi. The topic for today's session is the management of global business. As technology continues to connect the world, many organizations have taken the advantage of the opportunity to conduct business globally. As a global manager, you'll not only need to understand business principles, but you'll also need a firm grasp of the local customs, professional life, and regional policies of the countries that your company wants to partner with. Global management combines knowledge of business, culture, history, and social practices to help companies find their niches in the international business community and successfully work with other cultures. Today's session will be spread across 8 different topics, namely trans and cross-culture marketing, international trade policy, India and strategy, international distribution supply chain management, global business environment, international accounting and reporting, multinational business finance, and international joint ventures, mergers, and acquisitions. The session will be divided into 3 parts, with starting with Professor Aman Agarwal, followed by CA Anil Sharma, and concluding with the question and answer round. We will now begin with the first part. An alumnus of illustrious institutions like the University of Delhi, Indian Institute of Finance, London School of Economics, and Columbia University, Dr. Agarwal is heading as Professor of Finance Director at the Indian Institute of Finance. He has been felicitated by being enthroned to chair position of
Sonali, I think your voice is not audible.
Nishtha? Nishtha can take over.
Yes, ma'am. Just a second. Has Sonali's network retrieved? Is Sonali there? Or shall I take over?
I think Nishtha, you should take over.
Okay.
Sonali is not available.
Okay, sure. An alumnus of illustrious institutions like the University of Delhi, Indian Institute of Finance, London School of Economics, and Columbia University, Dr. Agarwal is heading as Professor of Finance, Dean, and Director at the Indian Institute of Finance. He has been facilitated by being enthralled to chair position of the Saint Emilio Brotherhood by the heritage city of Bordeaux, France. He is honored with the Life Fellow Award by Waseda University International Society for Management Engineers, Japan. His in-depth analysis and views on financial policies, education, capital markets, economic scenario of the country and the world are audience to multitudes of people across the globe. We are honored to have you join us today for this session, sir. I would now like to hand over the space to Aman, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be amongst you all. If I can get a take, if I'm speak about half an hour or 1 hour, if you want me to speak for, one can rectify to that.
Half an hour session, and then we will have the second session half an hour and half an hour question answer session.
Perfect. That should sounds good. And as I pointed out to Yuthika I'm going to be focusing on the four issues amongst the issues which was given to me, which was on international trade policy and strategy, global business environment, international business finance, international joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions. I'm very grateful and I'm very happy to see that Mr. Yukti has taken this initiative of organizing this meeting, this summit for the students and the welfare of the students, and touched upon some of the very key areas and issues which are lying before us. It is important to see what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. There's a lot of
Hello.
uncertainty coming in the last couple of years, and more so in the last 3 months around the globe. But you do not need to worry as the young branch, young youth, which is going to be marching in to the workforce within a span of a year or year and a half. There are brighter times ahead, and I think that's a very important component which needs to be looked upon when you are looking at going forward in whether it is doing business, whether it's a question of setting up your own startup, or it's a question of assisting your family business or working in our corporate environment, whether it's an Indian corporate or overseas corporations. When you talk about these areas,
अमन सर, सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, थोड़ा सा आपका वॉल्यूम थोड़ी धीरे आ रही है, थोड़ा सा.
should I be a
हाँ
little
जी.
loud? Oh,
या या
is this a better?
या स्लाइटली बेटर इट इज.
Just a
हाँ
second. Let's see if I can.
हाँ.
Just a second, please. Is this better, or is the same thing as before?
Yeah, better.
Okay, very nice. Good. Good to see you as well. As I was saying, it's very nice of Yuthika to have chosen these topics and to organize the summit for the benefit of all the students from university and outside to come and understand the complexities or the complex environments we are moving towards. My dear friends, you see, complex environments are always there. To say it is difficult times now, you talk to your parents, they'll tell you they had difficult times. You talk to their parents, they will say they had difficult times. It is never that you only have difficult times now. One always sees the difficulty in front of them. But I always, as a person, as a professor, I always tell people difficult times are to bring forth opportunities. And you must look at the opportunities lying ahead of you. This land called India, Hindustan or Bharat, whatever you may want to refer to it as, has been always a land of opportunities. For centuries, thousands of decades, history going back to over 40, 50,000 years. If you really look at and Google on Wikipedia, there are remains, archaeological remains which have been found, which date back to when you do carbon dating. You might have studied, those who have studied sciences would have studied carbon dating as a mechanism. And if you do carbon dating or some of those things, it has gone back to over 50,000, 55,000 years old. So you can imagine the society in this country has originated. And lately, large number of countries, I have traveled over 64 countries. I have had the occasion to address about 7 parliaments around the globe. And many places where I've met these people, they have said that when they trace back history, many of them, whether it is Hungary, Finland, Sweden, various other countries, they have said, even Romania from that matter of fact, they say that when they trace back history, it comes back to the land of India. So the land of India has always been in a land of opportunities. It's a question of which governance we have had. I would say we've had beautiful governance like the Chandragupta Maurya's period, when we had the first 2 universities being set up. To be known, the first universities internationally, Nalanda and Takshila, which was set up at that time, which was 350 BCE. Now imagine at that time, 10,000 students and 2,000 scholars, that is professors or teachers, were teaching in these universities. We come from that rich heritage institution. A country where people from across the globe will walk over to come and enlighten themselves. It was not easy. There were no planes, no trains, no ships, no buses, no cars, and people will still travel all the way to this land of opportunities. So I always say that one must look at the land of opportunities times tomorrow as opportunities going forward. Hello. Yes, so I was saying we must look at this land of opportunities going forward. The Chandragupta Maurya period, then going forward, we've had major accomplishments, various challenges, various opportunities. Are we subjected to those opportunities even today? Yes, we are. If I give you some basic brief statistics of India before I go on to the area which Yukti asked me to talk upon, India today sits over a foreign exchange reserve of over $500 billion, roughly 495 in terms of direct deposits, and roughly another 48 to $50 billion as loans given to neighboring countries. Those are also our reserves. So you can imagine that we are sitting over $500 billion of reserves. I remember when I was being interviewed on DD for UK, when the UK British Prime Minister was visiting about 5-6 years back. At that time, I tried to understand the economy there. That time, they were about $2.7 trillion economy, and the total reserves were $100 billion. Today, we are about $3.2 trillion economy on nominal basis, and our reserves are over $500 billion, something which is very important and needs to be considered. Every family in this country has almost about half kg to about 1 kg of gold. That is not counted in national wealth. I remember when I was visiting and addressing a forum in Hungary, the Princess of Austria, who got married, she had a few grams of gold in her dress. And when they explain about the palace and her rule in Hungary, they talk about it. And I say even an ordinary, middle class, average girl which gets married in India wears at least 10 times of the gold which was there in that particular dress. Now that is the amount of richness in terms of wealth itself. Historically and traditionally, in terms of literature, the origination of music, the origination of ragas, it comes from here. The Rig Vedas are one of the oldest scripts which have been written. Now these are some things which you need to be proud of, you need to understand, because they talk about the positivity and opportunities which lie ahead. You'll be surprised, everyone teaches you, and your economics teachers would have taught you that Adam Smith is the father of economics. I always say Chanakya, Kautilya, who is referred to as, he is the father of economics. The first ever book written in economics ever in the history about 350 BCE was called Arthashastra by Kautilya. And it talks of all nuances of economy. It tells you 3 dimensions. What a king should do, that is the government or the head of the state. What the civilians should do, that is the people like you and me. And what should officials do, each of their responsibility. It goes on to saying that the civilians must take care of their wealth and hide it from the officials and the kingdom. Now it has come to that level, and that particular text is even valid today, whereas Adam Smith's work is no longer valid today. So please let us not get normed or structured or fearful of what is happening around the world. We have at the Indian Institute of Finance been studying and understanding since this pandemic has started for the last 4 months in particular, what happens to economic scenarios. Now, I'm not talking of medical structures, I'm not talking of what happens in psychological frameworks, but I'm talking of only economic scenarios. And when we have been trying to study, we have studied various instances of tsunamis, of natural disasters, of world wars, of similar pandemics which have happened like the Spanish flu and others. And you will be surprised, my dear friends, and you can go and look at it, this data your own self, that whenever such incidences have happened, the world immediately after these incidences have happened, within a span of 3 to 6 months, has actually rebounded back. The growth has steepened very fast. Economies have come out of recession. The most recent, you might not remember, you would still be kids, but those teachers or faculty who are here would remember that we had tsunami hitting the world extensively, the Southeast Asian world, which were referred to as the Southeast Asian tigers way back in 95, 96, 97. In 2003-04, they were hit by tsunami. And that tsunami destroyed these countries tremendously. These countries have been growing and have not had economic impact or sluggishness despite world economic fall down way back in 2007-8. Then later in 2014, there have been instances, bank problems, economic problems. But these economies have not had these problems, primarily because that they had a major problem because of which they had to refurbish, redo everything, and as a result, the whole machinery was churned and economic growth was there. So when I tell you people that the markets would be good, please understand very fact. Doesn't mean that there would not be competition. Doesn't mean that you do nothing and you will be in good jobs. I'm sorry, my dear friends, that's not the way we are going to have it happen. What is going to happen is that you need to start working, preparing yourself, but there would be good opportunities. There will be large number of opportunities. Please understand one small thing. Large part of Europe is devastated by this particular incident. You can see the figures what are happening in the US. Who will come to fill those jobs? Someone will have to do those jobs which are being done by these people. And now, this whenever a pandemic like this is happening, it is not that you have only one category of people which are getting impacted. It's not the poorest of the poor or the middle class or the richest of the rich. All strata of people are diminishing off or being impacted in large number of economies around the globe. They will need to be factored in by their own population or by people from overseas. So there are going to be ample opportunities, whether you look at international trades or you look at multinational businesses or you look at global business environments. Now this was something which I thought I should, introduce you about what's going on. As far as the initiatives by Government of India, I think they are commendable. One thing which is very unique with the initiatives as against any other initiative but taken by any government around the world, and that is that this government is not only providing financial or physical support but also emotional support. The Prime Minister has been time and again connecting with people. He has been doing that since he came in 2014 with Man Ki Baat, the largest of the largest. But as of today, whenever this thing is happening, he is coming now and then, every now and then, and talking to people. He is connecting with people. That emotional connect is a very important feature. In fact, one of my colleagues at one of the webinars we were holding on Essence of Life and Growth every morning at 12 o'clock said very categorically, the famous guy who has worked with a large number of prime ministers in India, even overseas, and he said that when does a prime minister come with a folded hand before the population of a country to request them for something? A prime minister who has been voted in with majority, he comes with a folded hand all the time. He places a request. Now that is something which is very unique. When we see Trump, he says, I don't have time to go and meet people. I don't have time to interact with my population, my people. When we look at UK, he is saying, I'm not scared, I'm irrespective. I need to move forward with it. Now these are things which are critical. This is something which one needs to understand and appreciate. This is where the social systems, the social fabric, the social upbringing makes a lot of difference. And all of us, whether it's you, me, from the poorest class of this country or from the richest class of this country, has grown in this environment of taking together, being socially responsible, and that's very important. Now, as Yukti said, I will touch upon all these 4 issues for about 3 to 4 minutes each and give my perspective of what is expected to happen and what you should entail in terms of career opportunities. When it comes to international trade and policy and strategy, there has been a lot of roar about the international trade with the US bringing in curbs. Please understand, my dear friends, it is a blessing in disguise for large part of the developing world and emerging markets. Now you people may be shocked where people say, oh, bars are being put, restrictions are being put. How can you say it is a blessing in disguise? You might have heard and you might have experimented as small child. My son is doing so. How do you grow a plant? Now, if a small plant is growing and is having a good growth, but then it comes under a shade of a large tree, would it be able to grow? Would it be able to spread its wing? Would it be able to breathe sufficiently, get sufficient sunlight? No. Same was the case what was happening after the USSR Perestroika, which had taken place way back in 1991. The collapse of USSR made it a singular polar world with US taking over. there was major overshadowing of US on almost all possible economies around the world, economies, including economies like India as emerging economies or markets globally. We had still grown much faster, but there are multiple other reasons why we have done so. Now you need to understand the fact that like the small plant can't grow under a big shed, this is a blessing. Now why? Because this will give opportunities for other markets to open up. This will give opportunities for trades to improve between different countries, because otherwise major trades were between US and A country or B country or C country or D country. Even as a matter of fact, India was almost about 40 to 45% of our trade basket was nothing else but the United States of America. Now that has to be diversified. And if you remember, and if you have studied Harry Markovich's principle of diversification, the principle of laying eggs in different baskets, you must not put yourself in one basket. Same thing applies here, that you need to diversify your trade, improve, and that's where the improvement in trade and relations will come up. And as a result, what do we see? To this time, the kind of the governments we have today, we have tie-ups with all possible nations across the globe. For the first time, we have relationship, whether it is through RICA or BRIC or JICA or whatever you may talk of, that is either it is Japan, India, China, whether it is BRICS, whether it is looking at any forum, India's Prime Minister and trade relations have improved in the last 6 years. And as a result, we are recipient of roughly about $5 to $5.5 billion every month as foreign direct investment. I'm not talking of portfolio investment, my dear friends. I'm talking of foreign direct investment. This trade barrier, which the US has done because he's the President of the United States of America, he needs to take care of the interests of USA, has been a blessing in disguise. How does it open up opportunities? Now people are looking at buying goods, selling goods, markets, and India services to be one of the best markets around the globe for last 30 years. I remember when I was invited to address the European Leadership Forum in France, in Paris, by Business Week. Fortunately, after my session, there was a session of the L'Oreal chairman. This was way back 2003 or so. And I remember he is not very learned, he's not learned very well. But everyone, CFO, CEO was saying, we have to look at the charts because we had a IT bubble bust in 2001. They were not clear what will happen to growth. He said, I see India. I see India which has 50% population women. I see India which has 50% population which is 99% not serviced with cosmetic and female products. I see a market for myself. I see where L'Oreal can establish itself and go. And you'll be surprised, within a span of a year or two, L'Oreal became one of the largest leading brands within the country, servicing the smallest of the smallest markets in this country, dropping the price, inducing competition, and so on and so forth. This is how I see trade built up. India has been one of the best trading partners around the world in the prehistoric zones. If a product was going from India, people wanted to buy, the question was not asked, they would say, oh, it has come from India, just buy it at any price. We have had that trade advantage. What can stop us to have that trade advantage? Nothing. It's a question of now, you want to go through the startup route, you want to join an organization to get it up, you want to do other things. I think it's a question of, and fortunately, for the last 20 years after WTO stopped functioning per se, after Kamal Nath's address and interjection, and after that Arun Jaitley's interjections of taking care of agriculture and not this kind of subsidies Europe was giving, India has got a special space in trade where people respect India and what product comes from India. So I see a lot of favoritism which takes place and growth which is expected to take place in terms of trade. When it comes to global business environment, as I said, please understand these are difficult times. We need to protect ourselves. We are doing social distancing. We are communicating with each other. I think we have learned a new way to communicate. I am saving a lot of my time instead of going and coming. I used to do a little bit of it on television at times when they used to call me at the last moment or a nick of a moment that they want me on television, whether Lok Sabha TV or Rajya Sabha TV or DD, then they would do Skype. But that was rare. Now it has become the way of the life. And this is going to be part and parcel of us. We can connect to 600, as you said, maybe 700, 800 people across the town, across the country, across the globe. In the webinars we host, we have almost about 14, 15 countries people coming and joining us in those webinars every day. Now, this is something where business is growing. Magnitudes will be less. Margins will be sharp. You need to take care of them. But does it mean that business will not grow? My dear friends, business only goes where they get quality. You as students know you would like a professor if you're getting something to learn. You will come to this webinar which we are hosting, which is being hosted by Delhi University and the college, only when you think you are going to get something at the end of the day. If you are thinking you're not going to get anything at the end of the day, you would prefer not coming and sitting home and enjoying a cup of tea or a coffee or enjoying the little bit of cool weather we have got away in the last couple of days. Global business environment will be challenging, difficult, but would be full of opportunities. Large number of opportunities. Large number of companies globally have shifted their business from China. There is an inherent structure where they do not want to take products from China. This is an opportunity which most startups and even MSMEs can actually benefit from when it comes to global business environments. Multinational business environments, MNCs are having a little bit of a tough time because, as you know, and you might have seen in World War II, small business operations survived, large business operations suffered. And similar is the case with MNCs as well. MNCs can sustain themselves for a period of 6 months with this kind of difficulty, but they need operations because their cost of operation is very high. They hire some of the best talents around the world. They have some of the best offices around the world. They have the best facilities which have been created. All that is a big cost to an MNC. And given this kind of a shutdown or a lockdown, it becomes a major cost of operation for them. However, as I said, we have already started today going on. Partial unlocking of the lockdown has taken place. Partially, 33% of office functionality has been allowed. Large number of other offices are opening. A state like Delhi, I'm told, I've heard the Chief Minister the other night, and he's saying that we're opening up Delhi because we have no option but to do it. We have to live with Corona to go forward with. We have to move forward in life, and I think whatever way can make us move forward is going to be there. MNCs in due course are going to reduce their business operations, however, are going to channel it through young, bright people like you, who are going to have operations, who are going to be doing work from home, who may be sitting anywhere in the world and connecting and work. And I remember I am an ambassador to a German foundation which is run by the government of Germany, which is for startups, called the GINSA. You can look it up on the web. It's a government initiative of Germany. And 3 days back, we were in our ambassadors meeting. I was representing India from here as an ambassador. And we were talking, and they were talking of the fact that one of the gentlemen, an Indian who was working in Germany, how has he actually outsourced large part of operation of his company, which is a logistics supply company, and actually saved money for his company and induced inefficiency. He says if they had to do it with their own employee strength, the same work, it would have taken at least 5.5 months. However, he was able to reduce that period to only almost about 25 days and further go down in terms of the cost of operations. Now, this is where large number of organizations, startups, small MSMEs come into play, which will be there factoring into global business and the multinational business relations. When you look at joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, it's a very interesting sphere, my dear friends. You see, we have always been doing joint ventures. Now, I don't know if you have studied this as a separate subject, but we teach it as a separate subject at the Indian Institute of Finance in the MBA program, which we have. Here, please understand one thing. What is the relationship between a man and a wife? Setting up a family, nothing else but a joint venture. What do you see when organizations get merged? A child is born, a new joint venture is formed and a child is born. And that's where joint ventures are. When you come together, create relationships, togetherness, and you will be surprised. Till about mid-2000, that means till 2004 and 5, large number of companies were looking at wanting to go overseas, establish mergers and acquisitions. You had Tata Tately, Tata Jaguar, Tata Chorus, Mittal, Arsenal. You talk of the talk. Every industrialist was looking at, oh, I also need to go take over because it has become a fashion statement. Am I doing M&A or not? Am I doing merger and acquisition or not? Now, Tata typically did not want to do mergers and acquisition because they had a comfortable zone. They had a good market. Why do I need to do mergers and acquisition? But they also went forth with it. I went to the fintech clean tech company inauguration, which was invited by the government of Canada to address them in the clean tech function in Canada about 2011. And then later at the World Bank World Bank annual meeting 2 years back in 2017, April 2017, I met lawyers, I met businessmen. Today, they are looking at coming to India. They're seeing growth in India. They see productivity in India. They see markets in India. They see consumers, rich consumers like you and me. You'll be surprised. The people living in villages, in small towns, are the most richest. People living in big towns like Delhi and you and me in Noida or in Gurgaon are not the rich people. We live largely on financial loans and credit cards and systems. Most of us, except for teachers, as a matter of fact, who actually learn to save and go while they wait. But most of us do. In villages, people are cash rich. And as a result, we are seeing large number of these operations. I know of country collaborations which take place in agriculture in Haryana and Punjab, whether it is Israel, France, Germany, you talk of the country, now even Poland, Spain, all of them are tying up to do organic farming in this country, clubbing together, providing technology, setting up the greenhouse effects, collaborating and going forward to set it up. Large number of people have set up. The government has initiated a plan of introducing the flow of funds for the food companies, for the value-added food services, for the cold storage facilities. And as a result, again, a large number of foreign direct investment has come, collaborations have taken place. It is a time of collaboration. It is a question of working together. And this is how we are looking at collaborations going forward. There are concerns. When you look at mergers acquisitions, there are concerns which we saw from China. There have been restrictions put by Government of India on all FDI coming from neighboring cities and countries. And why is that so? It's a major concern. Now, I would say the government has taken a right step in terms of bringing out a policy framework, which is not only required for China perspective or specifically from neighboring countries perspective, but in general as a policy framework that you must not let all your eggs be taken up by one particular contender. And that's a very important consideration which came into light with the HDFC stake being taken over by the Chinese government. Please understand, my dear friends, China has been accumulating mines, minerals, and mineral sources for the last 2 decades now, almost 3 decades now, and has been investing in large number of economies globally, across the globe, and even in India. Paytms, Flipkarts, Alibaba, SoftBank, they are all both Chinese. So it is not that the infiltration is only in the HDFC framework, but in almost all sectors of life. Today, Chinese, I read in the newspapers, they're coming up and wanting to take over SIC units, companies which are not having liquidity, not having working capital to take care of their growth. They're ready to flush in that money. They are pumping in to take care and take advantage of the rich market we have. We are a democratic country, a country which will see the 5 trillion mark. My dear friends, we are already $12.5 trillion economy on PPP mode. PPP mode means purchasing power parity. What can my rupee buy? I will take another 5 minutes if I have to just give you brief inputs, and before I end my discussion, I will take the balance in my questions. The purchasing power is very important. How much do I go about spending for getting a job done or buying a product? Very important consideration. And as a result, we have been among the top 3 countries around the globe and amongst the purchasing power parity frameworks. We are even today one of the best countries in purchasing power. As a result, our GDP on purchasing power basis is about $12.5 trillion. We are already $3.2 trillion economy. We would be able to comfortably achieve $5 trillion economy within the time frame which has been set by the government. If the plans which have been suggested, the way they want to implement, and with the confidence of the people, they are able to implement those structures. We have nothing lacking. We have young youth like you. We have intelligent brains, know-how, knowledge, manpower, physical manpower, which is accepted, valued worldwide. We have a rich human capital. Our average age of a country is 28 years of age. We have a resilience and understanding, a comfort zone of welcoming people from all categories, of all religions, all cultures, Now, that is something which is very important. We have tolerance, which is very critical. We have been able to imbibe, adapt, and go forth. This is one culture which has survived, as I said, for over 50,000 years. Worldwide, when I meet businessmen, entrepreneurs, they are shocked. They say there is hardly any support in the past for the MSME, for small entrepreneurs. How do they survive? How can an entrepreneur like Narayana Murthy and the group of 4 people take the jewelry of their wives, start up a business, and make it a multi-million, billion-dollar business in a span of 20 to 25 years? It is not something which is a joke. It is not based on stock market valuations. Most companies, even which is Facebook, even if it is Microsoft, large number of them have grown on the extensive rise of the stock. Infosys has not grown based on the rise of the stocks. Large number of other companies are there. I remember reading of a company, and with that, with another example, I'll come to an end of my talk today. This company took over a company in US, in California, for about $5.5 billion, cash down, not even a single penny loan. And this company's owner used to live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Hyderabad and with running on a car like Maruti 800. He and his family. And he had $4.5 to $5 billion of money to pay cash down to buy a company in the US. Not a single penny of loan. That is the kind of richness every one of us has in this country. All of you have that richness, something which has built on in the society as a medium of savings, as a medium of investment, as a medium of structuring, as a medium of risk-taking appetite in this country. And I think that is something which takes us forward. I think that zeal needs to be up. You need to be positive. Very important thing. I was interviewing a Hollywood actress about 3-4 days back at my forum, and she said beautifully, I don't see failure. I have nothing like failure in my dictionary. I only see success. I only see volatile times. And I enjoy volatility and uncertainty. I have grown, I want to do, but very important thing she said is that educational institutions like yours should introduce courses like Life and Growth and also talk about the mindset, the mental ability, enhancing the mental ability. And I'm happy, as I said before, Yuthika, to have organized this forum because it's important to understand, it's important to help your mind open up your avenues, look at the market scenarios, look at the growth, and you will see the growth everywhere. As I say, a small light at the end of the tunnel is very important. Or that Bilbar ki khichdi example, if you remember, small diya could make the person stand in the cold waters of the sea or the river whole night. Now that is something which is important. Have faith in yourself, have faith in your country, and do your job. Study, get the knowledge. There is nothing which can stop you from succeeding. Best of luck and God bless you. Namaskar. Vande Mataram.
Thank you so much for such an insightful and invigorating discussion, sir. It was a pleasure to have and hear from you. The next part of the seminar will be taken by CA Anil Sharma. Mr. Sharma has been a non-executive independent director of UCO Bank as appointed by the Ministry of Finance. He has been engaged as associate professor by the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, set up by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India. He is also a member of the Export Advisory Committee of ICSI. As an eminent visionary, he has worked extensively on matters related to the World Trade Organization and other bilateral treaties with special reference to development of domestic manufacturing capacities. We are honored to have you join us today for the session, sir. Now, I would like to hand over the space to Anil, sir. So you might begin with the session.
Yeah, good afternoon. And at the outset, let me express my gratitude to Department of Management and Financial Studies, Shaheed Rajguru College of Applied Science for Women, for giving me this opportunity to address to such a large number of management students as well as other colleagues in this arena. Professor Aman Agarwal has already set the tone and he has already given you the background this particular topic. Pandemic has really shown us that we are passing through a very difficult time, but as he has rightly mentioned, that problems always come with silver lining. So there is always something to gain from them. So, and in fact, we can put it in some other words that we call that never waste a crisis. So it means crisis will always give us some opportunities, which has to be grabbed, which has to be explored and taken benefit of. So there are so many things which is happening, but some lessons which we have learned, like the use of technology, which is I would feel that this is something, and working from home. That is something which is which can change the entire way we are working, and then to our benefits. It can save a lot of energy. It can save a lot of and increase a lot of efficiencies. So that is something, and this is going to also impact the entire business, whether we call it domestic business or global business environment. That is also going to be impacted with this new learning, new way of getting business, and technology is going to be very extensively used for business in future. Professor Agarwal also she referred the various opportunities which are coming, like foreign direct investment, which is we were reading the news that very large number of companies have already approached various states in India, said that they want to shift their manufacturing bases in India. And in fact, for the last 3-4 years, when this Make in India movement was started by our Honorable Prime Minister, so we were already through that process already becoming part of the global value chain. And you can see that the results are also now are visible when we talk about assembly of mobile phones now. What a number figures which are there now. We are lot of all rather I would say all the international brands are now in India. They have set up their assembly lines here. So it has not only created employment here, and value addition is contributing toward GDP, but also has made us an important player in the international value chain. So with this background, the 3 topics which has been assigned to me are international distribution and supply chain management, transnational and cross-cultural marketing, and international accounting and reporting system. I am going to deal with 3 of them in a very, very precise manner. So let me start with the international distribution and supply chain management first. I think this has been it has been very well established that international supply chains help facilitate entry to new markets. These chains enable business growth, and they also ensure customer satisfaction. These 3 things are definitely visible when international supply chains are established, and I'm going to give you some case studies on that, so that will help you to understand this. So international distribution and supply chain management incorporates processes that integrate the network of suppliers, manufacturers, warehouses, and retail outlets, so that the right type of goods are sourced, supplied, produced, and shipped in right quantity to the right locations at the right time, and so that the consumer gets those in the right condition. So that is the main, I would say the main objective of setting up international distribution and supply chain management systems. International distribution and supply chain management is it has a multi-dimensional approach involving people, involving processes, and involving technology. So when we talk about people, we say that people must have a clear-cut view what company strategy is there, what is the business vision of the company, and what is their role, where they fit into the overall functioning of the supply chain. That is the very important part of this supply chain management. Second is about the processes. Processes include functions involving in that supply chain. It can be sourcing, it can be distribution, transportation, warehousing, sales, and customer service. And thirdly, the technology is used in the supply chain to connect people and processes. And these things three together, these are the multi-dimensional approach which makes international distribution and supply chain management vibrant and useful. In the modern global marketplace, with the advances in communication, technology, and transportation technologies, these chain management has led customers to expect a steady and regular supply of products in good condition and at a lowest possible price. And on the other hand, by managing their supply chain carefully, multinational companies can select the most cost-effective solution at each stage in the chain and can avoid business costs. And this way they can not only supply the best goods to the customer as the most appropriate prices, and then this would also give companies a real competitive edge as compared to when we talk about how they stand as compared to their competitors. So all this, I think the best example of supply chain would be that of Apple. Apple, those who all the products, we all are very fancy, and we always like to have one or the other Apple products. See, Gartner, who actually lists who does the rating of supply chains. So for the last, I think 4 or 5 years, Apple has been the #1 position in the Gartner supply chain listing. See, Apple has reached 260 billion in revenue in 2019, but if you look at their inventory, the inventory level is hardly 3.8 million. So you can see how they could achieve this. See what they have done. Apple has set up procurement centers at different places. They purchase components from different parts and from various suppliers, and then they get them shipped to the assembly plants, which are at the moment mostly located in China, and from there products are directly shipped to the customer, who buy those products from through Apple's online stores. So you can see this, that Apple has only technology. They have a technology to based on which those products are made, and they have the overall control of the supply chain. So through that supply chain management, they are able to generate that kind of turnover. So another very important point there, if you can see, is that the concept of just-in-time, which is being used for the inventory by Apple. There, see, since Apple is operating in a very uh, uh, in an area where technology is very fastly getting obsolete. Because of this obsolescence rate, it has been a very conscious decision on the part of Apple not to have a very large inventory with them. So what they have done, so they have given long-term contracts to their supplier so that they can have uninterrupted supply. But on the other hand, they have also ensured that as compared to the competitor, they are never short of their supplies. So this way, even by reducing their own inventory, they have ensured that all the products they get in time, and their production is not hampered because of that. Another good example I would like to give, that of Nestle. So Nestle is, and then we see these both Apple and Nestle, you can see that they are not much impacted by this pandemic. Of course, movement of goods has a little bit impacted, but overall, if you will look at their product and look at their supply chain management, as soon as the first thing which will happen when the business normal operations would happen, they are going to be the first one to get benefit out of it. I was referring to the Nestle case. If you look at this Nestle, they have presence in 187 countries. They have around 403 countries, factories spreading over various countries. They have around 3 lakh employees spread over different locations. And they are dealing in coffee, pet care products, nutrition product, as well as in water. They have around 2,000 brands, and these 2,000 brands are very cleverly. Some of them has been projected as global brands, and some of them has been projected as local brands. And local brands has been projected, has been launched, looking into the very specific requirement of various locations where they have presence. So gross sales for the year 2019 is 93 billion Swiss franc. It's a huge, and then you see, if you look at, if you just analyze how could they achieve this kind of a turnover, you will find that they have leveraged technology to touch every part of the business, from farm to fork, suppliers, customers, consumers, through digital marketing, through e-commerce. They have reached, and they have they have built strong communities, and through those strong communities and supply chain, they have impacted the livelihood in those communities, which are now virtually becoming part and parcel of them. And then quality of communities is with the Nestle now. And a very interesting new feature which they have added into their supply line is the supply chain traceability. It's a very unique concept which has been which has been introduced by them, which is they are the very first company who has used this. They have used open blockchain technology, where consumer can make informed decision and be able to choose responsible product. This facilitates a particular person to look at that whatever he is consuming, from where that product is coming. So this is something unique which has been inbuilt by Nestle in their supply chain management, whereby they are getting so much confidence and support from their consumers. So that is one part of it. Now, coming to the second topic, which was on transnational and cross-cultural marketing. So it is nothing different than, it is also part of the supply chain management itself, but it has a different dimension. And the dimension is that when companies go global, they have to take into account, cultural issues, cultural systems which are there, to know those factors so that they can easily run business on international scale. It has been proved beyond any doubt that cultural determinants strongly shape the functioning of transnational corporations. Dimensions of national cultures, ethical values, legal environment significantly affect the production and sales management by transnational corporations. Let us look at how things get over a period. When an organization sells its product abroad as an exporter, it needs to know the cultural background of its customer to sustain demand for its product. That is one way of looking at it. Then when an organization decides to move its manufacturing activity abroad, then he has to employ foreign labor force. Then he has to understand the host countries' labor laws. They have to they have to deal with the government agencies dealing with the labor laws there, and then they also have to take care of dealing with local staff, local suppliers, local consumers. So knowing them also makes them important. So to run their manufacturing activities there. And the third stage, when a particular company or organization establishes multi-country business network, when they have, let's say, factories in more than one countries and more than one locations, geographical locations, then and then then not only the local issues comes up, even the management becomes multinational, and then within the management, within the governance stage also, the cultural background plays a major role. When some decisions are required to be made, and since those decisions has to be with the consensus, then cultural factors are very, very significant at that stage. So let me give you by way of example how whatever I have said, how this cross-cultural marketing impacts. So the very good example of that is a textile and clothing industry. It's a very good example. You can see that they have to really take a decision that what are the products, do they, when they are going global, do they have to go with a standardized product, or do they have to differentiate a product? Then if they go with the standardization product, then they have to really understand the cultures, the old traditions of many nations. For example, let's say if a country is Muslim dominant population is there, then the clothes which a company is going to offer there, it has to be of a particular type, particular style, particular color. So all these things make a lot of difference. Content of advertisement there, that is a major issue that has to be modified, looking into the cultural background of that area. Then habits, consumption habits, religion, different colors preferences. All these factors are cross-cultural factors which impact the marketing part of it. Then when you have presence in other countries, then foreign languages, business protocols, these are also prerequisite for communicating with foreign suppliers and buyers. When sometimes even verbal and non-verbal communication becomes so important when when the companies send their representatives for negotiation with parties and to acquire some information. Similarly, see international capital transactions. When capital moves from one country to another, you have seen that see the contracts has to be very meticulously prepared. They have to be properly representing all the contracting party, must be drawn in national languages of the interested parties, so that they are properly understood and then executed by the parties. So these, I would say that this is the way how cross culture impact the marketing. So I would like to just give one example of Netflix, which comes to my mind, and I'm sure everybody these days is glued to Netflix. You see, what is Netflix? Netflix, actually, if you look at Netflix, it is a largest online video streaming company that allows a user to binge watch TV shows, movies. It has a subscription-based streaming. We call it over-the-top services, OTT, that provides online streaming consisting of library of films and TV shows directly to viewers via the internet, bypassing cable broadcasting and satellite television platforms. So at present, when we talk about Netflix Incorporated, the worldwide their viewer base is around 170 million. So today, Netflix is attracting TV viewers across the globe, easy access to host of TV programs, movies, original shows, documentaries. I think all of them are now easily can be seen, that how easy to now see them. And then, and very interesting part, how see the cross-cultural marketing. Now, first of all, how Netflix has come into India. They came in here in 2016. They were competing with Hotstar and Amazon Prime. So in India, in just 2018-19, their business grew by 700% as compared to their earlier year. So what happened? What happened in that year? In that year, they introduced local content. I'm sure that you must have seen serial like Sacred Games. So what they did, they, along with the help of Bollywood stars and production houses owned by such Bollywood stars, they started expanding local contents. Initially, they offered all the US TV shows, all the US movies and all that. But with the US experience, when they found that there is a saturation, so they thought in India also some saturation will come. So before it comes, they started introducing local content. This local content has really increased their customer base. So you can see that because of that, their customer base has increased manifold. And now one more angle to it. So what they have done now, whatever this local content, now they are offering this in US to the Indian diaspora abroad. They are very keen to, and they are very happy to look all the local content which they have developed in India. And now again going into the supply chain further development. Now Netflix is going to now they have already started investing in production houses. They are acquiring various places where they can shoot the films. So this is the way how cross-cultural marketing can help multinational corporations to grow. Third area which was assigned to me was international accounting and reporting system. You see, modern economies rely on cross-border transactions and free flow of international capital. More than third of all financial transactions occur across border, and that number is expected to grow. Investors seek diversification investment opportunity across the world. I mean, we are talking about FDI and multinational companies going to various jurisdictions. So while companies raise capital, undertake transactions to have international operations and subsidiary in multinational countries, they also like to have confidence in the financial system or the accounting and reporting system prevalent in those countries. In the past, cross-border activities were complicated by different countries, maintaining their own set of national accounting standards. All countries used to have different accounting standards. Accounting standards are the principles based on which financial statements are prepared by the corporates. And based on those financial statements, the investor makes the financial decisions. So this patchwork of accounting requirement often added cost, complexity. So they were, for example, earlier what was happening, suppose a American company wants to invest in India, they had to first convert their Indian financial statement into American reporting system, so that they can compare it, that how it is going to be, what company is actually doing, and what are the projections which are there, so that they can make informed decisions. But now with this international financial reporting standards coming in, now we have all over the world, almost like I would say 166 jurisdictions at present are has adopted one set of accounting standards which are known as International Financial Reporting Standards. They have been developed by International Accounting Standard Board, which is a non-profit organization where very large number of accounting standard bodies of different countries are also participating there. IFRS standard has brought transparency by enhancing the international comparability. The quality of financial information has improved. So now it has, after it has, the IFRS has been adopted. Now investors are able to make quick informed economic decisions. Use of single trusted accounting language has really reduced the international reporting cost for businesses. So, and then not only for the businesses, even the regulatory authorities worldwide, they have accepted IFRS as a single source for accounting standards, and they are recommending through their compendiums to all the listed companies in the respective jurisdictions to adopt international IFRS standards to protect investor and reduce systemic risk. In India, we have in February 2015, India has also adopted IFRS. In India, we don't call them IFRS, we call them Ind AS, Indian Accounting Standards, because they are not, though I would say 99% they are IFRS standards, but still around a few differences are there. So we call them IFRS Converged Accounting Standard. And India has successfully implemented them. IASB is fully satisfied with that. And since they have been implemented, all the listed companies and very large part of unlisted companies have already implemented them. So in fact, in in 2018, June 2018, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has made a quantitative and qualitative impact study of publicly available accounts of around 200 listed companies to understand that whether after IFRS or after Ind AS has been implemented, is there any impact? So it has been found in that study that see now comparability is there, benchmarking is there. Now Indian companies benchmark their financial statement with the global peer. Thereby, it has improved the accessibility of Indian companies to global capital markets. So now if Indian company wants to go and get their shares listed in stock exchanges there, since their accounts are prepared as per IFRS converged accounting standards, so they need not do much on that. So they are accepted as it is. So this has definitely made a lot of impact, not only on India, but also on various other investors who are looking India as their investment destination. So I would say that this way, international accounting and reporting system has more or less worldwide has converged into one standard, and this is going to definitely going to make cross-border investments, cross-border flow of capital, as well as flow of funds more easy as well as more cost-effective. So I think I will stop here because then looking at the timeline, and then we will be answering some of the questions if there is any on these topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such an insightful and invigorating discussion, sir. It was great to have and hear from you. Before we begin with the question and answer round, a few instructions are to be followed diligently. First, all attendees are to pose their questions in the chat box. They will be picked up by one of our moderators and be asked to the speakers. Next, all the attendees are to be on mute at all times. Please do not unmute your microphones. We will now begin with the question and answer round.
Thank you, Sonali. I am Nishtha Pandey, and I would hereby be taking on with the moderation part. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Aman and CA Anil Sharma for such an insightful session. And now I'll be directing questions one by one according to the content that they spoke about. So my first question that came up was for Mr. Aman Agarwal, and it was that the cost cutting that the companies might go through when they allow employees to work from home. So will that be beneficial for their employees in any way?
It's a very interesting question. I'm thankful to that question we were asked. Please understand one thing: when you look at an employee cost for any organization, as a matter of fact, it's effectively cost to the company of an employee is almost double that of a salary. That means, let us say if an employee is getting about 1 lakh rupees as monthly salary, then the cost of the company is roughly about 2 lakh rupees per month of that employee itself. So someone earning 50,000 means 1 lakh, someone who is earning 10,000 rupees would mean about 20,000. Effectively, it's not exact, but an effective ratio which large number of HR firms and HR heads have counted. Now, when we go for work from home, you are effectively saving on that 50% cost of the company. Okay, so the company will effectively save, and today you do not get bonuses, enhancement based on just working 9 to 5 kind of a structure. It's not like a clerical job that you're going into office, checking in, checking out at the end of the day. That's how you're going to get growth or your outlays or increase or increments or growth. What you get your growth on is your productivity, your efficiency. Now, whether you do that efficiency sitting in an office seat, using the air conditioner of the office, using the printer of the office, using the office staff, having a cup of coffee free of cost from there, or spending time there chatting with people, or you do it at your home or at any other place, does not make a difference for a company. I always tell my students that you see, in any case, they go as a MBA finance people, so more as finance executive, they don't need to do more of marketing or meeting with people so much, but still I tell them that every company should be looked at as a lala. You know, in India, there's a term called lala. Lala is a baniya. That means he gives you out some money, he wants something in return. That is what we refer to in financial terms as return on investment. And this is where every company is nothing else but a lala. So if they are giving out your package, they need return for that money. If you give that by a lower cost to the company is happy giving you more. So there is no question of cut downs here. The question is, if you are able to show your potential, you are able to show your efficiency, sitting any part of the world doesn't make a difference. Warren Buffett for the last 15 years doesn't even go to his office. He has an office space in Manhattan. He has a beautiful office, but he never goes because he's able to bring in that efficiency sitting at his home or wherever he's working from. So please understand, if you're able to do that, then it does not make a difference and you will only rise. Productivity would be rewarded. It has always been rewarded and it will be rewarded whether it is by the same company or someone else picking you up for the returns and gains you are making for the company.
Yeah, Nishta, I would also like to add two more dimensions to this. You see, work from home has also, if when it becomes a way of working, you see, very large number of working population, especially the married women, or when they get married, they go family way or something, that they now you can see that when they would also come into the productivity line. So definitely we are going to have more productive hands, but the only precaution which has to be there is that we have to upgrade the technology, because these days the way cyber crimes or all these are happening, so that technology upgradation has to be there if we want to make work from home as a positive feature for our in future.
Thank you, both the speakers, for answering the question so well. I direct my next question to CA Anil Sharma. Sir, the next question is, what are your thoughts on the flow of venture capital funds into the country post the COVID, and also how would the increase in exports, or what can we do to handle our balance of payments account after this pandemic?
You see, over a period, if you have seen this Startup India project, which has been started by our Honorable Prime Minister, and the project of Atal Innovation Mission, which has been being monitored by Niti Aayog, you can see that this I have felt that for the last 3 to 4 years, there are a very large number of startups which are coming up. And these startups are so effective, and in fact, they're so innovative. I won't say effective is not the correct word, are so innovative that they are now, or even some of the fintech startups, they are so effective that even larger companies, banks, or financial institutions are making them part of their businesses. So I personally feel that the kind of crop of startups which is visible in India these days, venture capital is not going to be an issue, and these two projects has really brought all the startups. And another very beautiful side of these startups is that they are also addressing to a very important area of our economy, that is agriculture. Some of them are helpful in connecting agriculture with the consumer, with the industry. So that is also a very, and so these are all I would say very good developments. And venture capital funds, there are number of startups which are now, they have turned unicorns now. So I am very sure that funding for startups, maybe temporarily there's going to be some setbacks, but in a medium to long term, there's not going to be any issues with regard to funding of startups in India.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. I'm sure that finally we'll be able to utilize our latent talents in the Make in India and Startup India initiatives. My next question is to Mr. Aman Agarwal. Sir, since we know that China is a manufacturing hub, and now that the attitude towards China is negative for most of the countries, so how can we utilize this and make India a manufacturing hub, and thereby utilizing our large amounts of population that we have, especially in rural areas? Because when the population stays in rural areas, lesser burden would be there, and I'm sure there'll be multitudes of good effects there. And also, how can if you could please touch upon the strategy of Chinese companies of buying out other companies in different parts of the world which are not very liquid. So their motives behind that. Thank you.
So, two questions that you have. The first one, as you talked about the fact of the manufacturing industry segment. Please understand, if you look at GDP prior to services sector came into picture, it was primarily divided into agriculture and industry. And industry was a large segment of the whole GDP contribution. Today, roughly about 55% to 60% is the contribution of services sector. So it is not that overnight, over the span of 2-3 years, we have just developed services sector. Because in the 90s, there were benefits being given to services sector, taxes were low and so on and so forth, and even today, fairly they are much lower. So large number of industry segment and people who are into agricultural development, value-added services, freezing, reproducing, producing agriculture-based products, they actually move from there to some of the services sector industries. As a result, we grew the services. So manufacturing is not small in India. There is a difference between manufacturing in India and manufacturing in China, and that's where China has an edge upon India. What happens in India, I have been addressing for over 2 decades now, large number of MSME entrepreneurs and owners on the MSME chambers, which they invite me to address. And I tell them, I said, do you have a balance sheet? Do you account for your employees? If you really go in the small towns also, you will see industrials live in sheds, small quarters, whereas the people who are running these industries live in big palaces, from small house to big palaces. Why is it so? Because most MSMEs do not quote what they produce. Effectively do not know what has been produced at all. And as a result, the government is not able to account for it for a long time. Okay. In China, on the other hand, since everything is majorly controlled by the government, everything is directed by the government, they have 100% control on who comes in, who goes out, who is setting it up, what are they doing, what are they not doing. And since large number of them are export oriented, it has to be routed through the government channels and structures. I remember the chairman of GE who was addressing our students way back in 96, 97. And he said that when I wanted to set up a factory in India, Korea, and in China, in Korea, I was up and running in about 7 months. In India, it took me 3.5 years to start a set factory and set it to go. And in China, for almost 6 years, he was unable to decide to do it or not. And the reason was, he says in China, whenever I tried to enter into a contract with someone, either it was owned by the defense, or it was owned by the government, or it was pseudoly owned by the government. So it was not clear whether I'm entering into with a company or with the government. And that's where the rules are not clear of the game. Secondly, with India, it survived. Korea, 7 months it started, but within a span of a year and a half, it shut down. In India, 3.5 months it took, 3.5 years it took to start. The company is still in and running and doing very well in this country. So there are bottlenecks which are there, but the industrialists, the MSME segment needs to understand that if they want to take advantage of the government framework, the financing framework, they need to declare what do they produce. They need to declare how many employees they have. The Jan Dhan Yojana, the GST has helped in this particular process. The GST, large number of companies have converted themselves. Now with the Jan Dhan, when having a bank account, now most of these employees are also being given through bank account. Not all. Large segment is still not being given. But at least this will give a way. When now foreign companies want to come in and do business, you want to set up as a manufacturing hub, then automatically you will have to structure yourself, you have to strengthen your balance sheet, because when they want to do a merger, when they want to do an acquisition, when they want to structure a deal with you, they want to see data. They want to see what are you doing. When you are doing so well, then there should not be a problem. if you understand and you read economics, a lot of people who write economic papers, they would say our parallel economy, which is the informal economy, that means the amount which is not accounted for is roughly equivalent to that of a normal economy. That means effectively, if I look at as that proposition even today, that if I have $3.2 trillion worth of GDP growth every year, last year if you take into account, if that means if parallel economy is as strong, that means I am actually growing by $6.4 trillion worth of economy, because large part of it is not declared. And this is where I think the mindset needs to change, the culture needs to change if we want to really gear up and get up to that level. China did it through autocracy. India is not following autocratic structure. Democracy is still prevailing. But the mindset within the younger generation is changing. But the people who have still been running the business, it is difficult to change. Why did it happen? When we got independence, 98% tax. That means if you earn 1 rupee, 9 rupees you will give to the government of India. If you earn 100 rupees, 98 rupees you give to the government of India. Who wanted to give? Despite being a loyal country, we did not want to give. So this needs to be understood, and if we are able to do that, I think things will change, and I am fairly hopeful. With my interactions with most MSMEs, they are wanting to structure it up. They have got adapted to GST, they got adapted to Jan Dhan schemes. They are trying to take advantage of the MSME financing framework. Large number of low rate finances are being provided. If they want to do that, they will have to do. Now you talked about the second part which was there, was its strategy. Please understand, every country wants power. It's a power hunger game. You see, people say superpower. India has never wanted to be superpower. Let me tell you very frankly, from what I read from academics, India has never wanted to be. But we have ruled the world. The Chinese scholar wrote, I cannot quote him exactly, but he wrote, the literature, the spirituality in this country has ruled the minds and hearts of millions of people across the globe, across the seas. Even today they do. Now that is something which is a power which India or Hindustan has had for centuries and is still having, whether it is yoga, Ayurveda, whether it is a way of life, whether they're doing something else. I think it has gone very well. But what has been the tradition with most countries, whether it is USSR or USA or China, large number of economies want to be powerful, superpowers. We want to be respected because of the power we have, the way we control resources, the way we control economic systems. China has been able to establish a large chunk of balance of controlling factors with large number of countries, including United States of America. Over 7.5 trillion, almost about $8 trillion worth of, $8 lakh trillion worth of bonds are held by China of the US for the dues which US owes towards China in terms of payments for consumer goods they have purchased for a long time. US is fairly under control for that. That's why you will rarely see them making noise except for a little bit of tit and bits, which is in trade and other things which has come up in the last couple of years. When it comes to energy, where they have actually tried to connect with the new Silk Road, the One Belt, One Road initiative which they have created, OBOR as they call it, initiative, that's where they see the structure trying to capture around. Why? Because most of these places where they're going, there is no development. So then they're developing road, railways, highways, shipyards, structures. That is going to benefit those economies and give them control over them. And that's why they have been even requesting a pathway to India, which India has not been granting so far. The third thing which they have been doing is lately for the last 30 years, as I said, controlling mines, because you see mining products, whether it is coal, iron, some of these precious metals are going to be uranium. They have been procuring these reserves, following the American tradition of procuring oil, as a matter of fact, to control economies around the world, because these metals will be required and they will be the whole source producer and supplier of these metals. And the last point is the finances, my area of functionality. Finances controls what goes on. If you look at your own family, if your father gives you money, you listen to your father. Your mother gives you money, you listen to your mother. Your elder brother or elder sister gives you money, you listen to them. The controlling member in the family largely, who is the earner is not the issue. Who is distributing the money, who is giving the money is the issue. Whoever is giving the money is the controller, financer of that organization. And that's why chartered accountants, my colleague here would know, have been major controllers of large number of companies extensively, although their roles have been limited, but they still have been controlling and managing these firms indirectly despite the CEOs being there. The reason is finance has an important role to play. Now China is using finance. They have known, because for them they can print money. They don't need to create money. They can print money because they're an autocratic country, and they are flushing this money like the US dollar was flushed in post 1960 onwards into the world market. Similarly, they are flushing yen, and now with the IMF accepting yen as one of the depository currencies, they are now going to flush even more yuans into the market going forward and trying to capture. And that's why they are investing in large number of corporations in India like Flipkart, Paytm. Paytm controls a large chunk of the currency flow, whatever they want. Retail chain like Flipkart, they can spread their products. And now as a consumer, when you see a product, a watch, a tie, maybe for 100 rupees in one place and 5 rupees in another place, you would not bother to see whether it is Chinese or not Chinese. Let me tell you, our patriotism for 90% of the population of this country goes with the wallet they have. It does not go with the structure which is there. We are all nationalistic, but that doesn't mean that we have to survive, we have to consume, we have to reduce our cost of operations. Even India is buying medical equipment from there because they are the largest producer and they are giving it a very competitive rate. Now, please understand this fact that their markets will not go down, but what they have done in the last couple of months will make a big splash. We are going to see at least 50% of their investment move out of China, and we have that power in India to capture it. Now the MSME needs the right kind of tools, right kind of flows to be able to capture that influence, bring it into India, and the government needs to lay down appropriate policies so that we can have that benefit going forward. Their strategy is clear, but the India strategy of ruling the hearts of people, providing quality products, investing in human capital, which I believe is the biggest thing which is going to happen in the next 100 years, is the human capital. In India, we have sustained some of these very basic ethos and values, and that will live us for centuries to go, as it has lived us for over 30, 40, 50,000 years in the history.
Thank you so much, Professor, for answering such heavy questions with such verve. Now my next questions are directed to CA Anil Sharma. Sir, one of our questions was, what would be the role of CAs after the pandemic ends, and how can they help in achieving the 5 trillion economy? And to add to that, I would like to question, how can we overcome this situation, especially in terms of employment generation and the supply chain? So, Mr. CA Anil Sharma, if you could please answer that.
Yeah, sure. You see, chartered accountant has a variety of roles. So let me first tell you that as a auditor, so I mean, everybody is now asking for relaxations, that rules and regulations should be relaxed. But I think auditing is one area where nobody is suggesting and nobody is expecting that that there is going to be any relaxation on the audit part, because see, sometimes this is a human nature. When there are controls are loose, there are always attempt of frauds and all that. So I would say that chartered accountants as a auditor has to be extra careful in this post-COVID scenario when they are executing their duties as an auditor. That is one part. But on the second side, on the other side, when chartered accountant is involved with the industry, with the MSME sector, so in fact, I am telling you with my experience. Now, I have very large number of small enterprises who are either getting their accounts finalized or their income tax and GST returns getting filed from our office. So now their worry is how they are going to revive their business, how they are going to survive. So now there's survival issue is there. So I think at this stage, chartered accountant can play a very important role in suggesting them how to really go ahead, how to really manage this ticklish issue. See, for example, like I'll give you quickly one very interesting practical experience. But there was a particular client. He had 4 or 5 businesses, and all the businesses are down at the moment. So he called me. He said, "What can be? How we should be surviving? Our all businesses are down. We have to. Banks are not giving us more money. What should be done?" So we discussed. I discussed with them, and the solution which came out after discussion was, let him concentrate on the core business for the time being. Let the other 4 or 5 businesses wait for some time. If the best business, which is his core business, if he can do well there, and then he can do this. And see, another suggestions like retain your key personals, so that see you're technologically or work-wise you don't get suffer. These type of suggestions, these type of and of course the most important one is, see, the moral support. Nothing, you have seen these type of bad times earlier in that particular year, you are down. These type of advices are also there. And one more third she's angle to it is, you see now, as Professor Agarwal was also mentioning, that there are so many new opportunities appearing. So in each business, some new opportunities are visible. Can they diversify it? Can they do it business in a different manner? So exploring those new areas, suggesting them to the business people, to the industry, is also I think is another area where chartered accountants can play a very, very important role. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. Now, my next question is to Professor Aman Agarwal.
Yes,
Sir, it's a mixture of 2-3 questions, so I'm sure you would be able to keep a track. I'm so sorry for the heavy question.
No problem.
So,
No problem.
My question is that, do we have enough supply to cater to the needs of the huge population of this country till the pandemic ends? And also, how would this whole scenario affect the farming industry? This is part of one question. And the second one is that, since we've all been talking about bringing in of technology, so the technology part is fine, but how can the technology reach the rural areas or the villages of India, where the approx 60-70% of the population still lives? There was an initiative about by the Indian government, but how effective it is, not on the paper but actual grounds. If you could please answer that.
Sure, I'm very happy, and very key critical questions, very intelligent questions your students, your colleagues and others are asking. As far as the supplies are concerned, when you look at the supplies, please appreciate the Government of India did come out in terms of food supplies, the buffers we have with Food Corporation of India, which are extensively lined. For a matter of fact, please understand, even today, about 68% to about 75% of the population of India is engaged with agriculture or agro-based industries. You see, large number of agriculturists and their children walked out in the late 90s and 2000s to come to big cities like Delhi and Mumbai and started working there with back office operations, large corporations, and so on and so forth. And then there have been splashes from time to time. We had the 91 fiasco, the 97, 96, 97 fiasco, then we had 2001 bubble burst, then we had 2004 tsunami impact, then we had the 2007, 2008, then 2012. Every 3-4 years we have had some problem or the other. As a result, large number of these chunk of people actually moved back to their own homes, and they could not go back to fields as an agriculturist as their forefathers have done. So they either started an agro-based industry or started value-added services for agriculture, or became a trader, as a matter of fact, trying to make money. So that is one thing which is very important to be understand, that even today about 72 to 75% of the population is still in rural India engaged in agriculture-based services. Almost 5% of the rural India population is engaged in other services, which is there. Okay. Now, when it comes to supplies, the supplies have not been halted. These people who were living in rural India were still getting supplies. And I remember being interviewed on Times of India Mirror Now channel in November or so, when CMIE came out with the data in, I think, October or November, where they said large chunk of population of India is moving down from metro cities to rural area. And the online shopping, the online purchases from some of these large companies has increased, which is coming from rural India. Okay, so we should not take that rural India is backward India. Just because they wear dhoti kurta or a banyan or stay comfortable, enjoy the cool weather, it is not the case. I remember E.T. Wells also coming out with a full survey where large number of working executives have taken a shift. Some of them have taken a dent in their salaries to go from big cities like Mumbai, Delhi and all to rural areas, semi-rural areas or urban areas, semi-urban areas, going to smaller cities to settle themselves due to level of stress, due to the level of problems which are coming up, pollution and so on and so forth. So when we look at rural India is not what it was at the time of independence in 1947. My dear friends, rural India today has trains, buses, internet, TV channels, everything you can hope of, and the freedom one doesn't get to enjoy in big cities like Delhi because it is not crowded. It is comfortable. It is easy going, clean air. So there are more advantages in rural India today as against what they were before. So we should forget about this rural India and urban India divide which we have created in textbooks talking about India. India lives in villages, lives in small towns. I have been suggesting for last 12 years now, 2009 onwards I have been suggesting about post office banking. I am very happy Narendra Modi ji has introduced post office banking 3 years back. It's not been such a great success because what I suggested was something what he has implemented is a little different, but it's still implemented. Why? Because post offices are there in the rural area and they're the richest people. They are the people who are cash rich people, as I just said in my presentation. They are not people who live on debt. They are not people who use credit card. They will stretch their legs to the limit our sheet can accommodate them. As we have the old saying, spread your legs. पैर उतना ही फैलाओ जितनी चादर पसार सकती है. Meaning thereby stretch your legs to that level only where the sheet can cover you. Do not stretch it beyond. And that's what is imbibed in large part of rural India. So my dear friends, rural India is not a worry. They are still working. Social distancing is not impacting them because on a large piece of farmland, maybe 4 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, 100 hectares, how many? 10, 15, 20 farmers are working. They're working, their family members are working. So there is no question of disturbances of lockdown creating any disruptions in the farming zones. Yes, farming zones in the metro cities like Delhi NCR zones farming, they have been impacted to a great extent. Okay. Now, do they have supplies? Do we have supplies? We have sufficient medical supplies. I have proposed that our Prime Minister should be considered for the Nobel Prize in Peace. India is today providing medicines, medical chemicals to the world at large. We have sufficient supplies of medicines and health equipment within the country. Yes, we do not have those dressing materials which are there, the testing materials which are there required for this corona component, but otherwise we have sufficient. So neither medicines, nor food, nor anything else is in short of supply. And the government is trying to do, and that is why we see this lockdown has partially been opened up, although still called a lockdown, but has been partially opened up by allowing people to go and start working so that we could take advantage of the Chinese companies moving out of China, revamping and restarting our industry, re-putting ourselves in the framework and not to create any disturbances. I am rarely here to see anyone. I have talked to a large number of my office staff, other people around. Everyone has been getting their food supply. There may be some slight delays. There may be some problems in delays. Logistic problems might be there. That's there in every economy. We are 1.35 billion people. We are a total population of total Europe and total United States of America taken together is still less than the total population we have in this country. So how do you think that we will not manage and just go away? We have been managing in this country. We will manage very well, and this government is well equipped of people and the requirement, whether it is food supplies or others. Let me tell you, the FAO has been talking, in 1 second I will take more. FAO, the Food Agriculture Organization, has been talking about food security as a big problem for the last 15 years. India is a supplier to that food security problem. India is the one who's funding that food security problem by solving that problem. So if we can fund large number of other nations to fund problems of food security and others, what things? IT, we are the ones who created. I was told by someone who created Windows that out of the 9-member team, 7 members were Indian brains. NASA, large chunk of Indians sitting there. Indian technology running all countries, all kind of products around the world. So where are we lacking? I don't see the human capital which we have. in universities like Delhi University, other universities, over 300 state universities, and another 600 private universities and other education institutions like ours, who have flushed and tried to filter in that human capital gap, have done a tremendous job in this country, and that must be bored and respected. If we eat a little less, maybe a chapati less a day will not make us, it will make us slimmer and better. And in fact, that will save that extra money we have to go and give to these slimming centers to reduce ourselves and keep our blood pressures in check or our cholesterol in check. So that reduction, my friends, my dear friends, is not disturbance in supply. We have sufficient, and please understand, even if we do not have $500 billion sufficient to buy immediate resources. I remember when Dr. Manmohan Singh in 1991 opened up our market, completely flushed the market goats, completely opened up, because we became conservative after our country was taken over as a colony. We did not open up till 1991. When they opened up, we were only having foreign exchange reserves to buy 3 weeks of imports. Today we have $500 billion of foreign exchange reserves, and large number of companies operating here from all over the world, and large number of Indians working all over the world and enjoying. Even if we place a request, an Indian will automatically send whatever requisite money is required to be sent here for any emergency which is there, which is not the case today. So my dear friends, get this worry off your heads, just focus on yourself, get yourself up and get going.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for that elaborated answer. Now, the next question is to CA Anil Sharma. So, the question is a mixture of two queries that our guests had. The first one is, how can we decrease this caustic habit of criticizing China and Chinese products and yet going back to them because they're cheaper? And the second part of the question is, which industry would be most benefited from this whole pandemic scenario? Please, sir.
Okay. See, this debate of consumer versus manufacturing. This debate goes on that why a customer should not be allowed to buy something which is cheapest, which is getting at the cheapest rate. So that is one argument. But you see, as a country, one has to see that we have a very large population who has to be given employment. So everything. So manufacturing cannot be cannot be left to just one country. In fact, pandemic has proved that point now. See, look at America. Now they are saying we want to bring back our manufacturing. Otherwise, why it was shifted? Because China could supply them all the products at a cheaper rate. And a similar thing happened in India also. Now we are realizing that we have, for example, is of API, active pharma ingredients, which is a base requirement for producing generic drugs. So 80% of that being imported from China. We are stuck there. We have to buy from them. So it means now, can you say that now that industry, generic drug industry was getting cheaper API from China, so that should be allowed to them to continue. Now they are stuck. So now they are realizing that in India, API should be domestically produced. So it has already started. So this consumer, there has to be equilibrium. That's why Ministry of Commerce, they are very particular in observing it, that when it is when industry is suffering, so then they have to come into play and put some restrictions. Otherwise, consumer interest or consumer is always remains there as a on the focus. So this debate of consumer versus having some minimum. So what I'm trying to say that as a nationalist, sometimes you have to buy certain things which are domestically produced, even costlier, only because of the reason that there should not be a situation where you have to rely on one country, which can, at a particular point of time, can blackmail and then pressurize you, or sometimes see. So that situation should not come. So therefore, this debate of keeping not using everything from, let's say, buying everything from China, even when it is available at a very, very cheap rate.
Thank you so much, sir. That was the last question, and I would like to really thank both the speakers from the bottom of my heart on behalf of everyone that's attending this seminar. And because of the lockdown, we all would have been filled with a lot of inhibitions about the future and what it might hold. And thank you so much for busting those and giving us all a positive outlook. Now, I would like Vidushi to please take over.
On behalf of the Department of Management and Financial Studies, I would like to express extreme gratitude to Professor Aman Agarwal and CA Anil Sharma for gracing us with their esteemed presence for this session. Their valuable and experienced insights on a very interesting and useful topic are sure to have motivated students to explore the multitude of opportunities available in the management of global business. We would like to present our eminent speakers with a letter of gratitude. The background in the painting made by Yuthika Agarwal, Bachelor's of Management Studies, second year, and Yuthika Agarwal, Bachelor's of Management Studies, first year. I now request everyone to kindly switch on their cameras so that we can have a group photo. Ma'am, are we through with the photo?
Okay, so I hope everyone, the feedback link is posted on the chat box. So I request everyone to post the feedbacks by 6:30. And thank you so much, sir, Aman sir, and Anil sir for joining the session. It
My
was
pleasure.
great to have you. I would also
My
like to
pleasure.
thank
I would also
all
like to
those.
extend a happy thankfulness.
Thank
Yes,
you very
Vidushi.
much.
I would also like to extend a hearty thankfulness to all the teachers and the students from across different universities who have joined us today. I'm thrilled to inform everyone that we received an overwhelming response of 800 plus registrations from various prestigious institutions like Jamia Millia Islamia, Aggarwal University, Amity University, and other various B schools apart from Delhi University. I request everyone to make sure to kindly fill the feedback form and share the screenshot of the same. The link for the form has been shared in the chat box here only. I would also like to thank the council, social media team, feedback team, editorial team, and anchors for all the efforts. Finally, I'd also like to thank our teachers for organizing such great webinars despite the current situation. I'd like to emphasize on the instructions again. All the attendees to kindly fill the feedback form. The link for the same has been shared in the chat box, and send a screenshot of the form and also a picture while attending the webinar on the link sent via an email. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Namaskar.